the series, the movies. What is wrong with it? It's PG-13. Have you seen PG-13 these days? PG-13 is R. It used to be 10 years ago. Cartoons. And this is for all of you who have young children. Make sure you watch the cartoon before you let your children see it. Be very careful. The message is in them. And people are making millions out of our corruption, corrupting human beings.
Thank you very much, Brother Isma. Welcome once again to the show. Come, let's talk with KASSIM KAYIIRA. The topic for today centers around marriage, and we'll be looking at the different aspects of marriage as a social contract. We'll look at it from the Islamic perspective, because that's what the video has said. There's haram and there's halal, and the experiences that people will bring to the table today, I hope will enlighten ourselves, and especially the parents and the young people who are just starting their journey in life, what the implications of marriage is. We all know that as human beings, we are social animals. We get attracted to each other, and the purpose of marriage is for continuity of the lineage. And one thing which we all agree, whether it's a secular marriage or Islamic marriage, is that marriage between close relations is prohibited because of the underlying genetic factors. So we all agree on that. From that point, we divert on the mode of marriage, either cohabiting before you marry, or you marry before you cohabit, as it is in the Islamic context. Now, the topic for today is on runaway brides and forced marriages. Now, if we ask ourselves, what is forced marriage? It's when a daughter, a sister, is given into marriage to somebody who is preferred by the family, mostly the parents, without their consent. And sometimes the night before the wedding, as we'll hear from different experiences, children do not know that they are about to be married. And where consent is not given, that would be forced marriage. And what does that result in? It results in runaway brides and sometimes bridegrooms. So the question before us today is, why do parents force their daughters to marry certain men? It's always that way. What would you like a bride? What would you do if a bride-to-be runs away before the night of the wedding, the big day? People are waiting in anticipation. The tents have probably been erected, food has been sourced, family members, neighbors, and these days politicians are invited. And then on that night is when the bride is informed that she's going to marry ABC, and this is ABC that they're probably seen in their village or never heard of them from Adam. And the parents contributing to runaway brides by way of asking a substantial amount of dowry or bride price, which cannot be managed and which cannot be sustained. And what's your experience of eloping? I would suspect no, as Muslims, but we live in a world where we know these things happen. From my childhood, if I remember, the months of Shaban, is always characterized as the month of weddings. People start to tie their nikahs before the holy month of Ramadan, but they've been cohabiting or living together. So this is common. Somebody has obviously eloped and moved to live with the husband-to-be or a young man, but because the month of Ramadan is coming and everybody wants to reap the rewards and to make it halal and holy throughout, then they are forced to marry somebody that they have eloped. So the experience is there. But if we look at it from our traditional aspects, because we know Islam came to Africa and to Uganda specifically in the 1840s. And before then, marriage was conducted based on traditional and social norms. Among the Northerners, the Acholi specifically, there is what they call eloping. I think they call it kasurube, something like that, where a young man or any man would steal, in brackets, a girl from another family and hide her in their home. And then the relatives will look for the girl and find her, and the family will be fined to legalize the process. That was before the onset of Islam. With the onset of Islam, the nikah came in and it was taboo to elope. But those traditions still continue because we are Baganda, we are Acholi, we are Iteso, we are Dogwara before we are Muslims. And those traditions take long to die. And especially if your parents came through that marriage process, then it would still live in your memory. But as a modern educated and secular education and Islamically knowledgeable parent, how would you class that? Would it be acceptable for your daughter to elope with another man in order to get married? And because they have loved that person, they've probably met in university, or they've met in college, or they've met in our towns, like young people move about and then they elope. What would you do if your daughter, who is studying away at university, comes back with a young man in tow and tells you that this is the man have decided, or this is the boy have decided to marry? And as a parent, you'll be left at a loss because your values, your Islamic values, your traditional values would have been violated. So that's the topic for tonight, and we'll have discussions from the public. We've got people who've got live experiences. I was expecting Sheikh KASSIM KAYIIRA to come and give us his live experience from his family. But the floor is open. Give us answers to those questions. Give us your live experiences and let us know what we as parents, especially in the Western world, can do. In the UK, it's illegal to force a daughter to marry, I mean, a girl to marry against her will. And you can be sentenced to up to 7 years in prison if your daughter claims that you have forced her to marry a man. And whether that happens here in the UK or whether you secretly take your daughter to back home, whether it's in Uganda, whether it's in Pakistan, in Bangladesh, wherever you take them to get married there, the laws in those countries might accept it for you to offer your daughter in marriage to somebody they have never met. But when the daughter comes back to the UK, including yourself, then you stand to face trial for encouraging illegal marriage. So the law here is quite strict to try and prohibit that, and justifiably, because marriage sometimes disadvantages the female child or the girl child. They are not given the opportunity to continue with their education or to continue with their careers because the parents believe that the right person has been identified, and if that right person goes away because there's other hot irons in the fire, then their daughter is going to miss out. Going to miss out because it's a young person, or going to miss out because the family that the young person comes from is a wealthy, comes from a wealthy family. So there's that element of economics, the element of finances, which tends to promote illegal marriages. What is your view? This is our topic for tonight, and the floor is open. The process is the same. Raise your hand, and I'll pick you up. And failing to that, I will pick at random and ask you to make a contribution to the topic. So welcome once again to our discussion. Come, let's talk with KASSIM KAYIIRA. I'm standing for KASSIM KAYIIRA, and the floor is open. Give us your take on it.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Brother Soid.
I think this is a very, it's not only a very interesting topic, but it's I should call it a cancer that we need to remedy within our communities. We used to hear it in other communities, such as our Asian friends or brothers and other cultures, but then as things stand, it is eating up the whole of our society. However, from the Islamic perspective, I know I'm not qualified enough to give a view, but I've always given a defense that Islam is a very, very easy religion. You don't have to what has been made halal or haram is very clear. There are basics that you are introduced to at a very tender age, especially when it's a way of life. So there are certain things even if you've not attended theological colleges and all that, you learn them from the way you're living at home, because Islam is a way of life. Now, there are authentic established hadiths about forced marriages. Now, the trouble is, at the moment where things are going is, now the law in the UK, I think it also includes, they've put it that it prohibits forced marriages, but then we don't know at what point does the arranged marriage turn into a forced marriage. And that's where most of the things are, because when you speak to people of other faiths and let's say Christian brothers or friends, and they'll say, Ababa Siram, the Muslims who just force people into marriages. So that's the perception, the picture that has been painted out there. And now I can assure you, this video that has gone viral of this young lady that's, ran away bride, it's going to be, the people Islamophobic and all that, they're going to jump onto that and say, didn't we tell you these guys just forced daughters into marriages and all this? I know people are going to seize this as a moment to make their propaganda against Islam and all this. But I think it will be very nice if those charged with the responsibility to head the Muslim fraternity within our communities, especially the muftis and all these, the qadis, will come out and make a ruling on this thing and clear the air and say, this is not Islam. We know people are going to come out and say this, without going into the actual detail, because what we have all taken in at the moment is what we have shared on social media.
Can I just check with you, Soweidi, that you're talking about the 3 girls who ran away to join ISIS and to get married with the ISIS?
No. I'm talking about the girl that ran back home, to the video that went viral yesterday about the girl was about to get married 2 days ago, and then she disappeared, and finally she's been found. Now she's spoken to them. She's spoken to the police and said, you know, they were forcing her into a marriage. Now, such situations are happening. I don't agree with forced marriages. If there was a way parents could come up and package this thing very, very well, and give these young girls a choice, I think that will remedy the problem. Because at the moment, it is in very, very rare situations that you will always choose somebody and your parents will like. And you know, when you're a girl that you're loved at home, usually the mothers, they will always buy into your narrative. Take a man that is, whether the man is a thief on the village, they know, but so long as mom knows that, you know, my daughter is in love, they will always find a way. They will try to look for the nice things within that man and then find a way of accepting. Because I'm speaking from experience. I had a friend. She was dating this very clandestine guy. The guy was a bad boy. You know, when we were growing up, we knew this guy was a bad boy. And then she refused to listen to the parents and went ahead and got married. But then they did not get married as such, but she started living together with him. Then all of a sudden, the guy dropped her. And when I was seated with this girl, she was narrating to me a story. She told me that, you know, these are the words she used. She told me that, Soweidi, that I took sand to my parents and I managed to convince them that it was salt and they accepted. Okay. But look what happens. This is the extent. She was trying to describe the extent to which they were, you know, they were saying no, this, but because they love their daughter, they didn't want her to be hurt. They accepted the guy in, but then later on, the parent turned out to be right. Now, usually when you're young girls, there are certain things you look out in a man that as parents will not see that. One, and I ask the sisters here to forgive me if I get this wrong. The girls, apart from those that are blessed, the ones that you know, Allah has blessed with wisdom and all this, they will look deeper than just the looks. Yeah, okay. The handsomeness or the guy's got the money. They will look at the ones that are blessed will go further and interrogate this deeper and look at things like security and what the brother, they will listen to what the brothers are telling her about if she's got brothers, she will always try to drag you in and ask you, brother, you know, this guy wants me and what do you think? Or, you know, can you try go around, you know, carry out due diligence on this guy for me? Yeah. They will be blessed, but there are some that will have their own. When they come with their choice, trust me, even if you speak to them, they will not listen. And those are the type of guy. And I'm kind of leaning towards believing that probably this girl, because usually the ones that run away, they always enter an agreement with another guy on the side, who is telling them that don't run away. Because she thinks she has a boyfriend, but they're trying to get her a man. And by the time you see some of these parents coming up with a proposal, probably maybe the guy is religious, he doesn't want to see, you know, the things happen. He wants to just give away the girl in good faith, let the girl go. But the girl will not see that. Will think, oh, but the other boy will be pulling on the other side, so run away. And those incidents have happened.
Brother Soweidi, let me park you there for a minute and bring in Laco Limited. Can you unmute yourself? You seem to have a counter argument, or you want to reinforce what Brother Masaba said?
Thank you so much. My name is Nuru. I just wanted, based on today's topic, in my opinion, as a Muslim, before I comment or I put my scenario on what has happened, or I would think it would be better to first have, if there is any sheikhs here, to give us the Islamic perspective, especially the question which is ringing in my head: at what age would the girl marry according to the Quran? Islam, yeah. And again, according to Islam, if the girl or a woman has reached that age to get married and she doesn't want to get married, what happens? What does Islam say what should be done? Then from there, because most of us know these things happen, like they've happened, but the reason why they happen, because obviously the other person is not willing to do or to get married. So the causes of not willing to get married, there are many. And why the parents are forcing the child to get married, there are also many. Most of them, we know them, like some of them, the previous speakers spoken about them. But what is the Islamic perspective on such issue? What age, and if someone refuses, what happens? I think that would make us focus more. Thank you.
Sister,
thank you very much, Sister Nuru.
There's a hadith of Bukhari, which says that a virgin girl cannot, be forced into any marriage until she attains the age of marriage. But they don't, they don't put a figure, a number on this age. You get it? The hadith just says until she attains the age of marriage, adulthood. And then in bracket, they say adulthood. Now, depending on society and because certain countries have lowered the age of consent to 16, some countries are still holding on to 18, some go as far as 14. But I think 14, they're now very rare, but unless you go into the traditional conservative communities, let's say, put it like in the Taliban controlled areas, or you'll find that one, there's no hide. You'll find a girl as young as 12 being married. But now, because there's a gap, because the age of adulthood, I think, I have a feeling it's the as long as the girl goes into menstruation. But things have changed these days because of the antibiotics, the way the children are growing, the way things are turning out to be. We got young girls going into their menstruation as early as 9 years old. So we cannot, I think this will be based on the mufti of that area, because the qualified, the muftis are supposed to give these fatwas depending on the prevailing situations. They are guided by the hadith and the Quran. They will look at the circumstances within that community as a council of religious leaders. The College of Sheikh, the Majlis Ulama, will sit and look at all this question from all corners, and then they issue a fatwa to guide us on this one, because I'm sure, but without contradicting themselves with the law of the land, that must be put into consideration. Because recently there was an article in the paper in Uganda where they say that the Supreme Court nullifies the Muhammadiyah something law, matrimonial law, that marriages that were conducted based on Islamic thing. Yeah. So there was something like that. We need to cross-check, but it was it was to do with consent. It was to do with inheritance. It was surrounding who is entitled, who enters into marriage, what is defined as marriage. So such things, depending on the circumstances, I think the ulamas will always come up and give guidance on the matter.
I think from the Islamic perspective, it's stated that when a girl reaches that childbearing age, it doesn't look at the biology of the body, but that menstruation point, that is the beginning point. But you said from 9 years old, some girls start their menstrual period. But if you look at their body is not ready. It's not been developed to carry a child. So it will depend on, one, the parents, and then two, the guidance from the mufti or the religious leader there. And then the overall would be the law of the land, the secular law of the land, because Islam can say from 13 you can get married. You can get married. But if the law of the land says you cannot marry off your child or daughter until she reaches the age of 18, then the law of the land will take precedence over the Islamic law. But again, this puts us in a dilemma because we have all been there. We are adults. When you reach a certain age, the hormones start raging and you start thinking of experimenting. And without proper guidance, you start experimenting on wanting to know what sex, for example, looks like and how it feels. And before you know it, the girl and the boys go astray and lead each other into that kingdom of zina. Now, that is one dilemma, the hormones. How do you control those hormones? And how do you, as a responsible parent, put a lead on the hormones of your daughter who wants to go out and experiment? That is one aspect. And then two, which gives a very big dilemma to the parents, is that we all want our lineage to continue. You want your son and daughter to replace you by way of getting married and getting a child to replace either you, the dad, or their mom. But as time goes on, and Allah knows best, some girls delay at home. And in every culture, they've got a name for those girls who fail to get married. The younger ones will get married, but that particular girl will stay at home and no suitors will come. Now, that biological clock is ticking, and the parents get worried that by a certain age, this daughter of theirs is not going to give them an offspring. And this is when the forced marriage comes in, because they can't wait for that time. They can't wait for the right suitor. They have to force this girl to get married to the next door neighbor or somebody from the next village, as long as the person is not related to the family. So is that permissible?
I think, Brother Jadine, you make a very valid point that the problem comes in when you take long. It's like in any other, just put it this way. You are in an examination, your exam room. You do all the numbers, then you have this number, you leave it blank. When they tell you it's 5 minutes to go, you'll just scrabble and put anything
in the hope that you'll get the right answer.
Because you don't want the whole thing to go blank. So this is where we find ourselves in this situation, especially, and the sisters, please forgive me. I don't want to use you so much as an example, but because usually the consequences are more biting when it comes to women. That's biologically proven. Men can get away with it, and it is okay with them. They can, but the women, the complications that come with it when you decided to have children late, and then even the repetition will always follow the women around. They will say, "Oh, you're not Chombeka." But for men, there's a way they will say, he has a child. He left a child in the UK, but they will see you there on a village in Imbale. But even when the child is not there, you get it. But for the sisters, when it's not there and there's no proof that maybe it's just a large plan that it has not gifted you with the children, people will begin thinking, "Oh, you're tagala kufumbira." More so, if there is evidence that there have been so many proposals, offers being put before you, and you've rejected them.
Okay, let's bring the sisters in, because like our topic for last week, this topic tends, or I can already see that it's leaning too much on the side of the men. What's the experience of the sisters? What is it that you want to see in terms of marriage? Do you want to have a voice in it, or do you want your dad to dictate the terms of the marriage? Sharifa, can you come in, please?
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
In my view, I think I would I would want to have a voice and decide for myself who to get married to, really, in this day and age. I know back in the day they used to decide. Now, like, I have my koja, my room on my mom's side. He wanted to marry the young sister in a certain family. Then they told him, no, you need to marry the eldest because she's taking long without getting married. So my koja wasn't happy up till now. He's been with this woman, but then, yeah, no, he hasn't been happy because they forced him to marry the eldest sister. And he up to now, he's been itchy. He's like, maybe they would have given me the younger one, but God knows best. He's been with her since, I think it's now 50 years in marriage. But at this day in time, I think I would want to decide for myself, really. And then maybe I tell daddy that, you know what, maybe I want to marry so and so, and maybe I would ask him to accept my decision instead of deciding for me. Yeah, because sometimes some parents have made also some mistakes and they've decided for their children. Now, like, I have a family friend, they decided for him.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it didn't work out so well. And they didn't test for HIV, maybe, I don't know. The girl had HIV and then infected this young boy. So he died miserable, and I don't think he forgave the parents. Yeah, he wasn't really happy about it. So I don't know.
I understand and really appreciate your contribution to the, but looking at what Brother Sowedi said, that the girls need to have their voice, and what they look for in a man does not only rest in the looks or in the money or the security. So they need to do their own research. So from your perspective, what is that one thing which drives you to go and convince your dad that I've found the right person and this is the person that I wish to marry, aside from those elements which Brother Sowedi mentioned? Because the looks, everybody will see, the money, everybody will see, but the security, how confident are you that there will be security in that marriage or in that relationship?
Unless if I've dated this person, for example, and I've broken the rules of Islam,
yeah.
And then I've gotten to know their character, and I know and feel that maybe he'll be the right person until God knows when. So then I'll convince my dad that, Daddy, look here, this man is maybe working, and I've gotten to know he has a good heart.
Yeah.
So maybe we shall live together. So I try and convince him that way. Yeah.
That is pertinent. And thank you very much for your contribution. I'll put my take in as a man, and all men will understand this, that when you are looking for somebody to marry, you put on a facade, so a front, to show that you're the right person, because it's a competitive world. You'll want to show off your looks by wearing the best clothes that you can when you're going to that family or to meet that girl in college. We all know that first appearance counts. You'll put on that face of security, and security to me means you are going to be caring for that girl that you want to impress, and you also want to show that you are responsible. You've got a job and things like that. But all that is amplified because you want to impress. That is logic. You just want to amplify who you are in order to win the girl. But once she's in the pocket, as they call it, and then that changes. So the responsibility on us men, I'm throwing this back to the men. Don't we, or are we not contributing to that fact that the parent of a daughter in the next village will look at you as a responsible and a secure man because of the atmosphere you've built around yourself? Is that not a false premise? And you're also culpable to forcing that young girl to marry into your family when you've put in a wrong face? This is a challenge to the men.
I think you're right there, but again, I should say you're not very right, because no, personally, I've been to the village back home. I've been in the town. I've been approached by relatives, relatives who come to me and say, oh, you know, we got your cousins around, you know, please try and connect them to responsible men. That's the word they use, right?
Yeah.
We know where you're living now. Probably you're from London, or even if you're not from London, but at least they know you have your circles within Uganda. There are people that, you know, they say, you know, can you, but because they don't understand that maybe you may be having friends around, or the guys that you know, you've been to school with, not all of them are trustworthy, or they meet the criteria. And when you tell them that, you know, at this particular point it's a bit hard, the market is a bit hard, and they don't stop. I've got my auntie, because let me tell you one thing. I've got a cousin that she's living in South Africa right now. Apparently she got somebody within South Africa who comes from the same village with us.
Yeah.
They got married together there. They have a child. Now, when I was having a chat with my auntie, she told me that she went into depression when she heard that the girl got married.
Yeah.
And when I asked her, she said that she said that I was disappointed. We expected her to find something better than what we were offered in our years.
Yeah.
She said, we got married to men on this village. How can she look for a man of the same village when she's outside this village? You get it? With her, she says that we educate girls, we send them to posh schools. She said, when I send you to Gayaza, I send you to Nabisunsa. Let's say, I'm just giving an example. If your parents send you out there, they expect a certain network that you're going to create. They expect you to if you're to hook up with a man, they expect a certain class of man. But they will be disappointed if you come back, you know, what they think
with the low class. With
the low class, because they expect it. Yeah, because listen, when Prince William went to St. Andrews University, that year alone, St. Andrews got more than 20,000 applications from international students all over the world, from America, from everywhere, because everyone thought they would be bumping into a prince. Every girl thought, and these were females.
Fair comment there, Mr. Swedi. Before I come to Brother Nasser Abu, I just want to wish to make a comment about what Sister Sharifa said, and which makes a valid point on why the parents should have an influence on the marriage. She mentioned that a girl was forced to marry into, or a boy was forced to marry the other, and it turned out that they didn't go for the HIV test, and it ended up in dying, in disaster. Yes. Now, this is where temptation comes in, because as a young man and a young woman, your eyes are blinded by love and sometimes by lust, and you fail or forget to look at the simple things which your parents will be able to identify as a requirement. And in this case, the HIV testing, because for you as a young man or as a young woman, you've identified the person who you think is secure and you think has got the means and the wealth, but you are simply courting with disaster. So don't you think that justifies the parents' input into helping, what I would call helping when it's actually forced marriage, helping their daughters and sons to get married? Brother Nasser, unmute yourself, and what's your take on that view before you come up with your submissions?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
My response, first of all, individually to that is that I believe that parents do need to take an active role in supporting their children to get married, and that's my point blank response to that. My input, if I may, if we may just take a step back, just for a minute, and because I'm basing my humble opinion on the intro that Sheikh KASSIM mentioned, this conversation that we're having right now is based on an incident that happened back home with this dear girl who obviously what happened with her. And we pray sincerely that our households do not come, into that kind of situation. I mean, so, and then when we look back at Quran gives us stories, and what are those stories for? For a reminder for us and for guidance for us. So I'm basing this on that particular scenario of this girl and what happened to her. And we pray it obviously doesn't happen to us. There is a lesson to learn from that. And so we have to look at everything as Muslims, okay? And that's the way that I see it. Islam doesn't come to remove everything. Anything within our cultures that is compatible with Islam, it enhances it. But anything that is not compatible with Islam, it removes it. Islam is the Furqan, is the criteria for everything. With that being said, we've also been lost in this concept of marriage in terms of Hollywood, happily ever after fairy tales. That is not the reality of life, okay? Because you can do everything, even as a parent for your child, to make sure that you've vetted the person and everything else, and then it still doesn't work out. So you have a clear understanding that we have clear criteria when you are searching for a spouse, what should happen. First of all, forced marriages are haram. There's no black and white about it. The consent of the child, male and female, has to come from them. Okay, so that's one thing that we have to establish within our community, especially here as a Ugandan community. That's something as Muslims we have to confirm. Haram, haram, haram. You cannot force your child to get married. Now, the other flip of you should actively play a role as a parent to guide your child, because the children are an amana from Allah. You will be questioned for this. Let us please factor akhirah in this. Okay? Now, why is it that you would leave your child, man or girl, man or woman, to go and find their own spouses? You yourself as a parent are failing their child by doing that. I understand that the challenges that we're living in, however, Islam is still complete and we have to have tawakkul on this matter. So I know of a situation where my niece met someone, but obviously without it going outside of the conscript, she was recommended someone through the sisters, all halal, everything, nothing intimate whatsoever. And she liked the person and she brought the person home and said, I really like this person. The family vetted the person. When they found out who they were, then they had, obviously parents, you got more access to more resources. They said, actually, you know what? This person, we found out his character is not the best. His deen is not the best. And so we would not want this person for you. But the girl
just before you continue there, Brother Nasser, this brings about a split in families and in societies, because as a Muslim, and as many of you are Muslims on this chart, we believe in that hierarchy of everything that comes from Allah takes precedent. We believe in the Hadith, we believe in the Sharias, we believe in the Holy Quran. But some of us, my example is that my family is split. My mother comes from a Christian family, but she married into a Muslim family. And this means that my aunties on the mom's side and my uncles are Christians. Now, the way the African tradition works is that I have a say in the marriage of my cousins on the Christian side. Now, if I'm to enforce or to uphold my Islamic values to them and tell them that your daughter cannot go and cohabit with another man, with a man before she gets married, I'll be putting the relationships of my Islamic family against the non-Islamic family. So don't you think by strictly following that clear-cut difference, we are going to split families aside from just that marriage issue?
If I can respond to you directly to the example you've given, because similarly, my mother is also Christian and my father is a Muslim. Okay, so you have to know that the rules of the Sharia apply to Muslim persons. Okay, the Sharia does not apply to the Christians. So you can, if you're saying that culturally you have got a say in the cohabitation of your niece who is a non-Muslim, then Islamically you have to question it to say, you can actually then say, I have a no veto, I abstain from giving an opinion because Islamically my rules, I cannot support zina or something that is going ahead before, even if it's a Christian marriage. You know, if it's going to be a marriage and you want my support in that, fine. But if it's about cohabiting, I will respectively, you know what, this is my humble opinion. Yeah. I'll just take a step back and say, you know what, I would rather not comment on that because Islamically, I cannot be able to support something that is haram. But if you're saying that they're going to get married, even if they're Christians, you can say, yes, they can get married. But anything outside of that fold, you will excuse yourself as a Muslim whilst respecting your culture. That is my immediate response spontaneously to the conundrum that you've shared there. So, so forced marriages, like I said, is a no-no. Parents need to take active support. We need to engage our children. You know, we need to start having conversations with them much earlier in life. You know, this is something that, because of we're chasing after the tough times that we're living in, we're chasing after the dunya, yet the dunya has already been, you will never get more than what has been written for you. Okay? And you will never get less than what has been written for you. So an aspect of tawakkul, inshallah, it is not easy, you know, but we have to know that you can do everything and it still won't work. So that within itself is a wisdom. It is not about falling in love.
Absolutely.
That comes into it. However, you cannot force a child to get married, and then you can't just.
So I'm not sure what happened there, brother Nasser, but thank you very much for your submissions. And that was clearly explained. The other issue that I wanted to bring to the forefront is looking at you mentioned that the parent has got to have an active role, an active involvement in the marriage. And that includes guidance, both emotional and psychological. But if we look at the UK definition of forced marriage, it's not just about physical pressure, dragging, threats, physical violence, and sexual violence. It's also about that emotional pressure to the daughters especially, and sometimes to the son, that you are bringing shame to the family if you do not marry from that clan or from that family. So that is forced marriage. Much as we want to look at it as an active role, there is coercion and there is sometimes psychological pressure to marry that child, and that's forced marriage. What's your take on that?
Personally, my dad had somebody in mind that they wanted me to marry. But because he also lives in the past in one or the other, in his old school, the things he looks out in a woman, they are different from what the modern world. For example, I can easily tell someone that is faking than my dad, because he grew up in the times when people were not faking, so it is hard for him to detect fake. But he was not very happy with me. But
brother Soedi, be the metro male and just hit it on the head. What is your position? What is what you'd call the desirable bride in the eyes of Soedi Masaba? What are you looking for in the woman?
To be honest, one, as men, they always tell us that, you know, the Islam gave guidance. Now let me bring it from you. Islam gave us guidance that you look at 4 things. Is it the beauty, their deen, their wealth, or their background in terms of family, where they're coming from and all this. Yeah. However, I always go with the looks, to accept the looks first. This is, and I've got an argument to this. I base my argument on the fact that, you know, when you take in someone on the basis of the looks, for example, as men, once I appreciate the looks, I accept you. Yeah.
Yeah.
We get into the marriage, and I discover that those looks there's no deen in them.
Yeah.
Your character is fake. I can easily come out, and I will put my hand up and I will say, Senga, things didn't work out, or Papa, things didn't come out, I'm sorry. But if I've known a guy, a brother who put religion at the forefront. Yeah. They arranged the marriage. It was an arranged marriage. The brother gave him the sister, you know, everything worked out on the basis of the deen.
Yeah.
But when probably they got there, he didn't like the looks. Now look at this. How do you go to Allah and tell Allah you dumped a woman of the deen?
Because of the looks.
Just because of the looks. You get it. So you're more guilty if you dumped a woman, or you left a marriage because she doesn't look good when she has the deen, than when you just walk out because on the basis that she doesn't have the deen, because everyone will say, the one that doesn't have deen, don't bring in. But yes, as I said, personally, my dad didn't like want me to marry the woman I have, but he had his own. I respected his views because he gave me his views. He said, because the woman was coming from a Christian family, and my dad was like, you're young guys, we know where this movie will end. It is always sad ending, it's hard, how we going to, because he gave his reason religiously, say, what are we going to tell Allah that we left the Muslim girls around and then we went for a non-Muslim girl? But I gave my views. I said, we can work on her because I've known her as a character. I know I've known her character as a person. I've studied with her. I've seen her all along. I know I will make it.
Thank you very much, Brother Sowedi. But that puts on a different dimension, because we are going to look at the looks. It's got to be presentable, and presentable means different things to different people. We look at the deen, we look at the character, and sometimes we look at the family. But now this puts the disabled girl, this is physical disabled, because you cannot marry somebody who's got a mental health disability. So this is somebody's daughter who is physically disabled, but she's got the deen and she's got the character. Now, most young men will avoid that girl, and it will be upon the parents to marry that girl off to...
Is Brother Osama still on here? Is my brother Osama still on here?
I can't see Brother Osama. But the point I'm making is what happens to those disabled sisters who will be forced to marry somebody in the village, whether they are of means or not, but just a way of the parents wanting the family to continue?
Personally, I've seen a disabled sister. Again, we were in the school with a disabled sister.
Yeah.
And wallahi, Allah just blesses certain people.
Yeah.
She had so many men that wanted her. So many men. Let me be specific. She was from Rwanda, yeah?
Yeah.
And she was such a beautiful girl. She was, her dad was the muaddin of the local masjid, yeah? Was the muaddin of the local masjid. And so many guys were asking that the father to marry that girl, because she was disabled, properly disabled on crutches, but she always attracted people's attention. I don't know why, but she was really beautiful. So it's
that
not
was
always,
Allah's will. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not always that when someone is disabled, they will be disadvantaged. Allah knows how to, turn what you think is not anything into something.
Okay, now I'll put another perspective to the audience, and this is for everybody, especially those who have not spoken. If we look at marriage from the traditional, secular, and Islamic perspectives, the only difference, or the strong difference there, is that the Islamic marriage has got to be rubber stamped before anything goes away. But everything else is the same. We all agree as Muslims that marriage is between the man and the woman, and this is the same for the traditional. We agree that there's got to be an exchange, token or otherwise, between the two families. That one we agree. And we also agree that marriage has got to be between people of close blood relationship. So the only difference there is the nikah. So why does that Islamic perspective, given our belief and our values, why does it take that much precedence when there's so much similarities outside there which will lead to a successful marriage?
I think you twisted your question quite a lot, and some people got lost along the way somehow. You find a way of shortening the question and put it in another way, or frame it differently, probably in a shorter way.
Okay. The difference between traditional marriage and Islamic marriage is that in traditional marriage, you can cohabit before you marry. The Islamic one, you have to do the nikah before you can cohabit. So those are the two parallels. So why don't we allow that aspect if we leave that Islamic stamp behind? Because all we're looking for is a stable marriage, a stable relationship between the two partners. Is the nikah, which is a stamp, the all guiding principle in our marriages?
Yeah, I think Islam has made marriage, simplified it. To be honest, when you look at the traditional way of marriage, it's very costly. It involves a lot. So Islam came to
simplify it,
to simplify things and set us free. That's why the ulamas or the sheikhs, they are telling us that, look, you can wait for that big traditional wedding back in Uganda, but let's do nikah here in London so that you're not living illegally. In the eyes of Allah, you've purified, you're sorted, you're cleared, your books of accounts are balanced with Allah. Then you can, if you want to set up something for the public to see, you want to make the money, go and do your shifts and go and throw that big wedding back home. But for now, do this. Again, it's a win-win situation when you look at it, Brother Jaden. You do nikah at a minimum cost, yeah?
Yeah.
Get into the thing. It even gives you time to study somebody before you throw $20,000 into a wedding.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're one person that went in without, thinking, So go in, stay with the person, do nikah, stay with the person. You are halal.
Legal, yeah.
You don't know when Malaikatul Maut will come and call, knock on your door. So just do that. Just and as the previous speaker put it, just do tawakkul ala Allah. Just do that. Supplicate. Go back to Allah and make dua and say, bless me with this man. Bless me with this man. I hope this is the best choice I've made. I hope I've not, I've not set my cards on a wrong horse.
The wrong footing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. The other question which we set to discuss and answer is that, are the parents contributing to the children running away and eloping because of demanding too much from the groom side? We know there's going to be an exchange. We've mentioned that Islam has made it simple before you throw money into the wedding, but there's still got to be an exchange, and parents will look at what their demand based on the character of their daughter, the education that they've given their daughter, and the job that their daughter might be doing.
It's usually the social status of the parents in the family that will determine how they want to give away their daughter. Most of them, because Brother Jadin, if I'm a very close friend of yours, and last month or last year I attended your home when you're giving away your daughter in a very colorful ceremony.
Yeah.
Trust me, you will have a bearing on my one. If we are close friends, I will want the same thing to be replicated, to be emulated in my home when my daughter is being given away. So it's the social class, because I also want to send out those letters to my friends, my network of friends. So, come, your daughter is, I'm giving away your daughter, come home. Sumaya is going. So you don't want that, to feel out of place, because of course your friends will be joking with you. Oh, where did the girl go? You just gave away your daughter in such an unceremonious way of handling things. It's usually depending. It depends on the social status of the parents. They would again, also their experiences. There are some parents that have experienced have got a very bad experience. Probably they have one or second or third daughter in a home where things they thought they were giving away somebody
respectable,
in good faith. Because me, when I first visited my in-laws, I visited them in 2004 and 2006. But I went back to do the introduction in 2010. Then later on, my father-in-law, we were having dinner at his house, and then he said to me that, son, I want to apologize to you. I said, why? He told me that the truth is, when you first appeared here in 2006, I honestly never expected you to come back. He told me that he never expected me to be that committed, that 4 years later I'll be back and officially, because he told me that, okay, now you've come, go and get ready, go arrange, the wife is here, go and arrange and come and take your woman. So he told me that he never expected, because of what they had experienced in the family. They've had people who have gone around, and then
decided not to come back.
Decided not to come back.
Thank you very much, Brother Sowedi, for those interesting personal notes. You are always bringing stories which are live to the ground, to your family. For those who have just joined, this is your usual weekly program, Come Let's Talk with KASSIM KAYIIRA. My name is Jad, and I'm standing in for Brother KASSIM. And the topic for today has been runaway brides and forced marriages. And the questions that we set ourselves to discuss and answer is that, why do girls run away before the night of their marriage? Why do parents force their daughters to marry certain men, men of a certain status, especially wealth and social status? And by doing that, we parents not contributing to the runaway brides. And if a bride runs away and comes to your home, you as the host, what will you do? How will you respond to somebody's daughter has run away from a marriage that their parent has arranged for them, and they have come to live with you as an immigrant in your family? What would you do? This is open to everybody, and I'll throw it open to the sisters. You've been silent, and this is impacting, because we're talking about the brides. Everything seems to be linked or pointing to the brides. What is your view? I'll come and pick at random, ask you to unmute yourself. You don't have to introduce yourself. I'm the only one who sees the name here. Just give us your view on those issues, and let us share it. I'll start off with Amina. Can you unmute yourself and give us your take on this topic, or write it in the chat box, in the chat room, and I'll read it out. Amina, can you unmute yourself and give us your views? Okay, Amina is shying away. Can we have Leila, please? Can you unmute yourself?
There's Aisha there. She has put her hand up.
I can't see Aisha there. Where's Aisha?
I can see.
Okay, yeah, I can see Aisha. Aisha, welcome to the show. Can you unmute yourself, please?
Hello, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you, Brother Jason, for the show. And thank you for all those that have contributed so far. Very interesting topic. And the questions, of course,
just before you continue, Sister Aisha,
yes.
Have you got a radio in the background, or are you on headsets? Because there's an echo.
Headset. I think I should get off my headset.
Yeah, it's reverberating, and we don't want to miss your contribution.
Okay, just bear with me then.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
That's a lot better. That's coming loud and clear. You're coming in color now.
Hello?
Hello, we can hear you now loud and clear. Sister Aisha, are you still there?
Hello?
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes, that's a lot better now.
Okay, okay. First of all, you did ask a question regarding what would you do if a runaway bride comes, maybe I would say if they come back home, or if they go somewhere.
Yeah.
First of all, as I'm a parent myself, if that bride runs away, maybe comes back home, I will, first of all, it's an understanding as a parent or a host, an understanding is why they're running away in the first place. And there is always a reason why that person is running away and making that decision, reaching on the day, and then they turn away.
They start run away, yeah.
And they start running away. So there is always a reason as to why, you know, that person will be running away. Unfortunately, for most of majority, maybe of our parents, they wouldn't normally, for them, it would be like a shame. You've brought shame to the family. Yeah. And they will look at it as, they look more at themselves in terms of embarrassment, in terms of disrespect. And I think it's very important to ask somebody why they've made that turn.
That decision to run away.
That decision to run away. They could have genuine reason, they could have genuine fears, you know. I think for me, I would really be very much interested and to ascertain why the person has decided to run away. Yes, probably could be because they've got second thoughts, could be because they've been forced, like the topic has been, and could be because there are fears going into marriage. Some people have genuine fears going into marriage and having that commitment. You know, people have second thoughts.
Yeah.
So I think it's best to, you know, to.
Is it a question of the bride or our daughters not being educated well enough into what to expect in the marriage? Or are we afraid that if we educate our daughters and our sisters in the ways of marriage would be coercing them and indirectly forcing them into that marriage. Are we missing that point of relationship education and sex education before they get married, and that's what's causing the fear, as you mentioned it?
I would say in the back generation, it's a mixed. In the back in the long when, well, where in the generation back, maybe about the maybe the 70s, maybe the 80s, of my mom's generations.
Yeah.
There was a kind of, you know, you have to go to this marriage, you have to go, you know, there is that kind of force, and they would normally have I believe they had talks, maybe aunties would talk to them around marriage, but normally those talks would come on those as you close into marriage. So they would have those conversations, and at that time you did not have a choice. You know, you did not have a choice whether to refuse, and the parents would come and just say, we've got through this and you do not have a choice. So you go. But of late, as generations have come, you know, you find that people will go willingly.
I think you've mentioned those periods of 1970s and the 80s. I was there, and I knew those were periods of one, scarcity. The economic war was biting at the time of the 1970s. And then when you come to the 1980s, there was the status. People wanted to marry their sons and daughters into families that had wealth and families that had status. So they were forced to go. But now in this era, things have become normalized, and the era of the internet, people can make their own mind and make their own research before they jump into it. So it's less.
I think it is a two-way. It's either in this era, it's either people rushing in quickly, and they make research, but they also go in quickly. All people, there is also married by associated because somebody has married, or my age mates, my peer pressure. People go into marriage, and sometimes they may read what you may read or what may research may not necessarily be what you're going to find in marriage, because it is completely different.
Thank you very much, Sister Aisha. I'll come to Galaxy A12. You've had your hand raised for some time. Can you unmute yourself, please?
Hello.
Hello, assalamu alaikum. Can you introduce yourself?
My name is Haji Mr. Makumbi.
Hello, Mr. Makumbi. You're coming up as Galaxy A12. Have you upgraded?
No, because I'm using someone's phone. I lost all my contacts on my phone.
Oh dear, sorry about that. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, I'm here in Kampala. This one was made headlines last night. I think they didn't put out the real picture of what happened. The girl had his boyfriend whom he wanted to marry. When he introduced the boyfriend to the family, they didn't like the boy because of his appearance. He was Rastafania, the bell bottom, the shoes, the trousers were hanging halfway the bottoms. So they are not impressed. Then they decided to get someone, a substitute, to marry the daughter. When the daughter went for decoration and the preparation, she decided to run away. Moreover, spend that night with his boyfriend. So the thing is just the culture of the new generation, the old generation, which was crashing last night. If you are marrying someone, the girl is the one who makes the right choice, whom to marry, but not the parents. That's why she ran away. But factually, it was known that the guy didn't like. He made the point clear that he was not happy with the choice that has been made by the parents. So he decided to do a run. And when one made a claim that is bringing shame to the family, it's self-inflicted. It was self-inflicted to them by the family. They should have allowed the girl to decide. But
no, but Mr. Makumbi, going by your description of the guy, going by the description of the guy that you've just said, the guy is a Rastafarian with the belt
Yeah.
Don't you think to a certain extent now we're beginning to think the parents should come in? The parents were right. To be honest, let me tell you.
Yeah.
Did you see, Brother Jade, did you see this this princess of Dubai that was kept under house? Oh, because there are certain things, to be honest, you can't just do them. This is similar to what Prince Harry is doing in terms of going viral and thinking. There are certain rights the family has over you. Let's accept. Yes, let's accept.
But the choice is the guy who makes the choice.
But listen.
Can we have one at a time, please? It's getting heated there. Basaba, you're saying the family has got to have a right over the girl, but isn't that the first element comes in?
That's the first element. The daughter don't have the last call. She made up her mind, and she surfaced today. She has gone back to her family and explained her point that I'm not going to marry that one because I've got my boyfriend whom I'm interested in, and I would like to marry that one. So you just have to accept the choice made by your daughter. You like it or not, but the one who has made the last choice.
Mr. Makumbi, over the years, I don't. You will also agree with me. I'm sure, Brother Jerian, you've come across this over the years. All those marriages that you reject what has been offered to you, you decide to marry yourself into what you think. Hakubila, me, I've seen they have always ended up in disaster. They've always failed. So long as you don't get blessing from your parents about something.
I've got a close friend. He got his boyfriend, but the family didn't like the boyfriend. But decided to marry his boyfriend. They had a very nice marriage, and because they made a mistake, they could support each other. And their marriage lasted till one of them died away.
Brother Makumbi, there's two comments here in the chat room. One from Sarah, and she says the girl is wrong to run away, and then Abu Mustafa says she can't marry a night dancer and the parents stay quiet. So this is removing the rights from the girl.
The question is, who had the last call? It's the girl who is going to marry to someone.
And if you go by that narrative, Mr. Makumbi, we know the girl has she's got every right, but we have to balance her rights against also the rights of a family.
What rights do the parents have over the marriage?
They have, we don't.
They only support. They're supposed to support, not to decide whom to marry.
Now let us look at it from a different perspective, because we have got the rights here, and then we've got the wishes of the parents. Now let us turn it to education. Most of us would love to see our daughters go into professional courses like engineering, like medicine, accountancy, and all that. But if the girl decides to choose media studies, music, and things like that, and yet your values traditionally is based on those traditional subjects which are good, would you allow your daughter to continue along that line? I would say most people would say yes, that's her life. But again, this is also their life. She's got a choice to make with guidance, obviously.
I had the same scenario. I had my daughter and all my sons. They didn't like my profession. They say that one time consuming. The man doesn't come in so early and work a lot, and the returns are not due to what we've done. So they decided to turn their back on what I did. And they took their own career and they proved me right. They proved me wrong, that what they took was, by their time, that's where there was money. But what the course I did in our days was more respectable and had reputation. If you were to go somewhere and say, this is the engineer so and so, you carried respect. But nowadays, what comes on the table, that's what carries the respect. How much you get at the end of the day, that's what calls the day. Things have changed.
Now, there's two challenges or two dilemmas in the chat room. Bakia says, just because he's a Rastafarian doesn't mean that he's a bad person. And Abu Mustafa challenges that by saying she has a right on deciding, but she still can't marry a criminal. So how do we know that a Rastafarian is criminal or is the wrong person?
I think I've been with Rastafarians. They are well behaved. The only thing we judge them because of their appearance, having long hairs. But much of them, apart from taking the drugs, not the hard ones. This one, taking the small marijuanas, they are nice people. other than that.
Okay.
Listen, Mr. Makumbi, we're not condemning the Rastafarian to death, but I'm trying to you know, there are certain things. As we've had families where children have turned against us. You know, I've got a niece who has turned against the parents, and she's saying all sorts of things. But it hurts, to be honest. It is always the parent that has your best interests at heart, regardless of what happens. To be honest, your parents are your last line of defense until the children know that we are heading for. There is no way that same Rastafarian tomorrow will be running off with another girlfriend.
How do you know?
No, listen, we have seen these things happen, Mr. Makumbi, but we are saying she will go with the Rastafarian, she will mess up, but she will come back home, they will pick her up. That's how good and generous and merciful the parents are. They always have your interests at heart.
I think it's down to the individual person, because we're now treading a very thin line here of judging the character of a person by the way he looks, because personally I've known people who wear suits and ties and they're the worst criminals, and this is the kind of person that you would have married your daughter to. And I've known Rastafarians who turn out to be lecturers in university and doctors, and they do their job diligently. So by just judging based on those looks, I think it is a line which is very thin, and would be very unfortunate if we discount such people just because of the way they look. I've got Aisha. Aisha, can you unmute yourself again? And I don't know if you want to make a rebuttal on what Mr. Makumbi has said, or a rejoinder to Sowedes. Can you come in, please?
I just wanted to as well to comment on calling this whoever judging Rastafarian judging, and I think that's one of the reasons sometimes why people do what they have to do, why she may have done it, you know, because we jump into conclusion very quickly. Like you've said, there are so many men in suits who are actually more, you know, more criminal, more domestic abusers than actually those Rastafarians. So I think one of the things that may trigger someone actually to hide and run away is the fact that my parents are going to judge me this way, the public is going to judge me this way. And that will contribute, obviously, to somebody deciding not even to bring their partners into, you know, to show them to their parents because the fear of judgment.
And that will encourage zina. Yeah. Okay. I've got Sarah with your hand up. Can you unmute yourself, please, and give us your view?
Yes.
Sarah, are you still there? Can you unmute yourself? Sarah, you got the microphone. Can you unmute yourself, please? Okay, while we're waiting for Sarah to come to grasp with the technology, the show normally runs from 8 till 10 p.m., but we started late because of technicality. So by show of hands, how many of you are in favor of extending the show for another 30 minutes so that we recoup on the time that we lost?
I'm one of them,
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam, Sister Sarah. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. Well, for me, in this case is a double-edged case. First and foremost, I feel sorry for the parents on one side, that because of the embarrassment. We have to know who we are, especially when, you know, where you come from and who you are. And when you bring up your child, you bring them up with certain expectations and values. And in this case, it could be that they brought up their child with those expectations and cultural values.
Yeah.
mean, I'm not endorsing that people, people should be forced to marry who they don't love. In this case, but we're talking here about a 24-year-old girl, from what I heard. A 24-year-old girl who had found herself somebody who was not approved. But then when you look at the other hand, the key question is, if you've been with your parents and you love them and they love you, if you don't, at 24 years old, you don't run away on the night of your wedding after they've done everything there is to do. And then you put them to the worry, thinking you've been killed especially if you are in a country where kidnaps and murders are happening, and there is everything. You don't do that. And being a girl who I saw wearing a hijab, she's a Muslim girl. You don't run away. If you run away to a family member seeking protection. You don't run away to a boyfriend to do more zina, to rub it into your parents' face. For me, this takes away all the respect and the support I would have given this girl. And this is why my sympathy and apathy goes to the family. You wouldn't, if you put yourself in those shoes, look at yourself. We are all here. Most of us are adults. Be the parent. Put yourself in the shoes of these parents and see how you will feel. For me, this is not a daughter at any point I would like to have, or even be anywhere near my children.
But Sister Sarah, you've made your point quite eloquently, but from the information that we've got, we are stabbing blind on the one side. We are only going by what is on the social media. Nobody has interviewed that girl.
Sister Sarah,
what her views are.
Sister Sarah is giving her verdict based on all the facts before us. This is what we are all basing on. That one, she has said she doesn't want the guy that they've given her because she has her own guy, and her choice of the guy is the other guy. And we are all judging her based on that. And Ajat Sarah is absolutely right, because if you're a judge, you don't anticipate. You judge on the facts laid before you. And in this case, the facts before Ajat Sarah and Pano here is she wants a Rastafarian vis-a-vis the other option. We don't know what the other option. Maybe it could be that she's also running away from being a second wife to someone. That's understandable.
And that's true. And for me, it's not an issue of the girl who, we're not talking of an 19-year-old girl who is new to sex relationship. From what you've described, or from what we've heard, this is a girl who had a long-standing relationship, and the parents, whether it's Muslims or non-Muslims, I think every parent, you weigh into who you're bringing into your family, remembering that you have a daughter, and the children of your daughters are gonna be your grandchildren, right? So whoever comes into your family, it's not just you. We come from a country or culture whereby your grandson your son-in-law is your son, right?
I put it that your grandchildren even inherit from you.
You inherit from you. And for me,
let us look at it a different way, because you brought another dimension here, is that this 24-year-old has been in a sexual relationship for some time with the knowledge of their parents. If I make the assumption that the parents have done that in order to save the family from continued shame and forced her, I'm using forced advisedly, and forced her into this marriage. So how sure are we that the pressure that has been put on this girl, one, led her into that sexual relationship between marriage, and then two, the pressure has also led her to run away from her parents?
For me, I look at it this way, that, like I said, forced marriage is not allowed. Okay,
We agree on that.
But also we know that going against family values is also not acceptable.
Yeah.
Those there are two things there. And then there is the third issue of allowing the family to arrange a wedding, and then
you run away on the night.
And then you run away on the night. And not only do you run away to on the eve of the wedding, but you run to the very person they are
removing you from.
They are disapproving you to marry, right?
Would it make any difference if she ran away a week before the marriage, before the wedding?
It would make a difference for one, because weddings, caterers and all that. We're talking of millions and millions of money that go into preparing these things. Some of our relatives, I could have flown from London to go to Uganda to attend this wedding. That is already too much money and too much painful to anybody who would have gone to support her. If you look on the platform where this message was put, we have relatives on the UMC platform who are part of this family in the UK. Okay. But most importantly to me as well, she at 24 years old, she could say clearly what her wishes are, and then afterwards decide. I don't agree with Isa Makumbi to say it's a girl's choice. It's the girl's right to marry who she loves. Yes, but it's not her right to treat her parents the way she treats, especially when she's from the values we come from.
Isa Makumbi, your name has been mentioned. Can you say something?
I will defend myself. There was a dispute between the daughter and the parents. He introduced the boy to the family. He introduced the boyfriend to the family, but he didn't like the boyfriend. And she expressed herself that she's going to marry that man. But the parent got someone, a substitute, and had them organize the marriage in tow. That's why she ran away on the wedding day. The parent was just, she expressed that she's going to get married to her boyfriend, but the parent didn't like it.
Listen, Mr. Makumbi, I'm sure on this platform we got social workers, Personally, I work with social workers most of the time. Part of my job involves taking children away from families and going around with the police and all that. We've had situations whereby we've got women who suffer from DV. You get it? What they call DV in this country. They're in abusive relationships. They have got their relatives crying for them. Leave this guy. No, I love him. I know I love him. You get it? You can see that clearly that someone is under she's under siege. She's under serious torture. But she's saying, but I still love him. I still love him. This is a situation I want you to put the parents into. They can see something that this girl does not see in that, that Rastafarian of theirs.
Okay, I'll give you the definition of post-marriage here in the UK as somebody with a social work background. It says where there's physical pressure, where there's threats of physical violence, sexual violence, and then there's the emotional and psychological pressure, for example, bringing shame to the family and making the girl feel guilty. And the offense borders on taking somebody overseas to marry and arranging somebody who lacks capacity and somebody before they reach the end of 18. Now we have established that this girl, Muslim as she is, had chosen to live with this Rastafarian. So by the parents coercing her to marry another person, that would fall under the class of forced marriage. And this would support Makumbi's point that the girl has a say in it. How do you go around that?
Well, for me, I would say, I'm sorry, I didn't put my hand up again for this time to speak. We are not saying this lady, I've said she's 24 years old and she has a right to marry somebody she loves. It's the way she did it. You can still make your position very clearer to your parents at that age, and then they don't go ahead to do what they did to arrange another wedding. And obviously it goes back to, she's somebody who definitely, who hasn't gone along with the values. Or we could say the parents didn't do enough to sell the values. No, to impart the values
to the daughter,
into the daughter. So she could be a product of their own upbringing, but still, when you are in a home, she was still in their home. She was still in their home. The fact that we are looking for her, that she's lost, she's kidnapped, she's somebody who was still in their home. She hadn't moved out to live with anybody else. She was still in their home.
Thank you very much, Sister Sarah. Let me bring in JM. Can you unmute yourself, introduce yourself, and give us your point?
Hey, Jaden, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Listen, I'm a parent. I've got 3 children. Married to a Muslim man, background Christian family, no Muslims in my family. At the end of the day, I think it's not the child to blame here, okay? Irrespective of what we think as grown-ups and as adults.
Yeah.
By the time she did what she did, looks like she'd put up so much resistance. They put up so much pressure on you, and you think, oh, well, yes, I'll leave the Rastafarian, but I don't want this man. But then we've put in all this money and effort into this. You got to marry him. We've all been brides. Alhamdulillah, been one. But which bride, you tell me, hand on heart, goes to have her henna done, all her makeup done on your own, and you catch a taxi to go back home? Is that normal?
So what are you implying? That
I don't think she was supported 100%. Looks like she was forced. She didn't want this man. Irrespective of where she went to, who knows? Nobody knows. We're speculating that she went to this man she wanted to marry. I haven't seen that on social media. Unless someone has seen that, I haven't seen that. If it's been there, I'm sorry. But I know she's gone. She didn't want this man. She want to get married to this man. Let's respect her. I know the parents were upset, but at the end of the day, she goes and marries somebody else and murders him in the end. Because I didn't want you.
I think
did this for my family.
You are echoing what somebody has put in the chat, that Muslim parents should stop forcing their children from marrying people they don't like, thus shaming our religion. Now everybody is laughing at us.
It is true, which is really a shame, because nobody is perfect. We're not perfect. Not because of your religion. You could marry somebody else and change their religion, because the respect you have for them, the mutual respect you have for each other. I'm married to a Muslim man. In my family, there's no Muslim person, to be honest. I've been with him since school. Been together 23 years.
Thank you very much for your...
You have to have that flexibility at some point in time as parents. I know where we come from, your background, you've got your culture, you've got your Islamic culture and things like that. But sometimes you need to listen to the children more. Yes, you didn't want the Rastafarian, but don't force onto her someone you think would be suitable.
Thank you very much for your contribution. And that brings in another take, because we've got the rights group, people who think the girl has got their rights, and then we've got the other camp where values, family values, religious values take precedence. So how do we marry the two? We live in a society where the two have got to live side by side. We cannot divorce the rights from the values, because this is what we are all brought to believe, and this is what we see in ourselves, in our children. There's cross-cultural marriages, there's cross-racial marriages, and there's everything in between there. So how do we marry the rights and the values without causing this kind of embarrassment, if you can call it embarrassment, this kind of friction between Muslims and non-Muslims now? It's now a friction between men and women, and family against family, Rastafarian against non-Rastafarian. How do we marry the two? Musa Mukwaya, can you unmute yourself and give us your take on that?
I think he's driving.
He's driving. Okay, I'll come to Amina. Amina, can you unmute yourself and give us your contribution? Amina is not responding. Give us a message in the chat and I'll read the messages in the chat. Musa Mukwaya says, forced marriage is haram. Parents' handling of the matter was very poor. The girl is morally not good, less respect to the child today, and have less respect for their parents. So again, the blame game is started. The girl made a mistake, and two, the parents also made a mistake for not raising their child according to those values. But this is an adult, and our definition of an adult is somebody who has attained that age of 18 and they are of sane mental health. So they have the right to make their own decisions irrespective of the values of the family, of the religion, depending on how strong their faith is. Their rights is fundamental to them. So my question goes back, how do we marry rights and faith without causing so much aggro? Brother Sowedi,
yes,
help us. How do we marry the rights of families and, sorry, the rights of the girl child or the boy child against the values of the family, the religious values?
No, the thing is here is one, you have to make sure the girl child has to be empowered. One, empowering the girl child, educating them that you can still be a doctor, you can still have a profession as a teacher, you can still be a social worker, but at the same time, be a Muganda woman. You get it?
Yeah.
Be a Muganda woman means it comes with its own attachments or values. These are the things we have to take, and we are seeing these. How come our friends, our relatives, and I mean our colleagues, the Asians, manage to balance the thing? They can be a Rishi Sunak, but still remain as a Hindu. You get it? He remains a Hindu. He's got his Hindu values that he preserves. He's a prime minister of this country, but he will retain that. And you see that this thing trickles down, you know, within the family, within the community. But I think we have a form of inferiority complex. That's it for sure. That also affects us as a race. We are used to consuming. That to the extent that we substitute our values and cultures for other people's cultures. We get to a point. Even, for example, let's bring back the actual traditional wedding of a Langi or a Acholi, an Acholi Muganda. You know, in-laws used not to go and dance and stage up a karaoke thing, like a show dance.
Yeah.
You've mixed in, you've tried to copy and paste hybrid, the whole thing is a hybrid kind of arrangement where you put in traditional with a few things from the Western culture where people are going to be dancing and all this. And the whole cocktail turns out to be sour. This is the thing. That is also where the problem is coming in from. The moment you begin mixing certain things are not supposed to be mixed. Once you mix them, the reaction in chemistry, you know, when you get wrong chemicals into the beaker, the things go wrong. So to me, I think we have to go back, as Hajat Sarah put it, we go back to the basics. We impact this in children. My wife, originally, she's a Muslim. I converted her, but from her maternal, her mom's side, they were all Muslims. However, I will not recommend my son to marry a non-Muslim woman. That's for sure, because I know the cost that is attached to it. You have to do a lot of work to maintain your red lines, because
I concur with you there, Brother Masaba, because at the beginning of the show, I said we are first and foremost Africans. We've got our traditions, we've got our language, we've got our cultures, and then Islam came in the 1800s, and they came with the Arabs, they came with the British. British brought in the laws as we know today. But at the base of it, we are Africans and we are Langi, as you said. And to me, that should be the foundation for everything that we do. Now, if we're going to disrespect some of those values, Then whatever comes later on in terms of religion and in terms of the secular laws is not going to mean much to us. It would be a question of copycatting or copywriting things that we do not fully understand. So
yeah,
that girl, as you said, first is a Muganda, and then the religion comes over as an umbrella, as a guiding principle.
Yeah, because because the thing is, I'm trying to put it, that's why, because I also suspected probably maybe she pulled out because usually there's also peer pressure. You know, some of these girls, they will be into high gear to get married.
Yeah.
Then there will be others that come and whisper in their ears, why do you want to go and become a second wife? You know, that guy's wife, she's a witch. She will bewitch you. She will do this. She will, and young girls get terrified sometimes. They pull out. I've seen someone that pulled out of their similar arrangement because they were threatened that the other, the co-wife, she's a known somebody that practices shirikan, the witchcraft, and she will get herself into trouble. And this woman chickened out of the deal.
Okay, in the remaining 10 minutes, we are where we are. Things have happened the way they have happened. We can't change it, but we've got lessons to learn. All of us, if not most of us, are parents, and we've got our sons and daughters probably hearing in the background or waiting for us to report on what we have discussed. What are the key lessons that we have learned from this experience, and how are we going to make it change, not for us, but for our children, for our sons and daughters moving forward? How are we going to make this experience of value to us? We can't change it. Mr. Makum, you've still got your hand up. Is this historical or is this a new burning issue?
I think we are the parents just have to advise. Try to advise at another age. Pinpoint out the problem that they might face, what are the characters of those people, blah, blah, blah. But if they make up their mind, just have to give up and then let them go and that's their own music. The only thing is a parent is a parent. One day you have to part with your daughter, someone has to marry.
Okay, as a parent, are you the hands-on parent who will sit down with your daughter or son and teach them the Quran, Alif, Bet, and so on? Or are you the one who will guide your son by sitting on the side and correcting them when they make the mistake?
No, you teach them Arabic, teach them everything, but it's up to them to take it in or take it out or refuse it. But you have to accept the decision that they've made since they are over 18. You can advise.
Brother Masaba, what's your guiding principle in terms of how you bring your children up?
My guiding principle is try to be the person you want your children to be, to start with. Little things, like, for example, teaching them integrity and honesty is very, very key. Because if you are the kind of father that is known to be into fidgeting around with certain things, and the children know about you, you know, everything that you will tell them will not count, to be honest. So you try as much as you can, try to paint a good picture, be a person you want your children to be. Make sure they only draw nice things from you, and make sure you tell them that, you know, when you promise someone something, this is how you deliver. It's important to be someone of integrity in community, and there's enormous rewards for being a honest person in community. That way, at least your children will be your friends. I think they will even trust you when it comes to making choices for certain things for them. They will buy into. But if you also have your own baggage that is crystal clear, open, they are seeing it, you already messed your own life, you already all over the place in terms of your parenting responsibility, you have abandoned them. I don't think you will come in at last minute and try to advise them about marriage and they will listen. No, they will not.
Thank you very much, Brother Sowedi. We all know that we spend a greater proportion of our lives in the care of our mothers. So it would be interesting to know from our sisters, our mothers, what experience we take forward from this in terms of educating our sons and daughters. It's not just the daughters, it's our sons as well, because they contribute initially to the whole problem. How do we, from the mother's point or mother's perspective, how do we take this forward in terms of educating our children? Can I hear from the sisters, mothers? I've got Leila. I'm going to unmute it.
Got Leila, yeah.
Yeah, unmute yourself, Leila, please.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We are not going to be restricted to what we have learned. You can comment on any aspect of the discussion. But what we're interested at this point is, how do we take this lesson forward? How do we educate our children?
I found the session very informative. I've thoroughly enjoyed the discussion. What I would say as a parent is that we need to take on a non-judgmental approach in that bringing of our daughters. Let's listen to them. Let's guide them, obviously, share our lived experiences with them, share as many stories that we hear with them, because that as well will kind of enhance their learning. But I think most of all is to listen to them, and and that early raising of awareness when they're still young is very important. Just raising their awareness on the realities of life. Thank
you very much, Sister Leila. JM, I'm not very good with names. Can you unmute yourself and give us your last take?
I've done. Thank you very much. But just as in conclusion, let's agree to disagree. In this generation and era, most parents are being materialistic. Okay.
Yeah.
So someone could come around and say, "Oh, he's not good enough," not because it's not obvious. To the girl, he could be a status, or could be vice versa to the boy.
Yeah.
Because of the parents think they need somebody to look after you and also after them and after your siblings. And this is a common thing in this era now. They want someone, irrespective if he has 10 wives, 11 wives, as long as he's deemed to be rich, they would sell their daughters to the highest bidder.
Okay.
So we as parents have to empower our daughters. There's lots of opportunities out there. Do not sell your daughters to the highest bidder. They'll never be happy. And if they're not happy, you'll be miserable in the long run. Let's be honest.
But the problem there is that the biological clock is ticking, and we all want to get an inheritance from our children.
At 24, what? At
no,
24,
I'm not talking about this case. I'm talking about giving your daughters time. Yeah, generally.
But generally, if you brought up your kids with the ethics you wanted to come up with, educated them, you've met them, your friends from the time when they're little, they will be open with you. Some kids don't want to marry early. They want to get professionals first, especially if they're educated, because you have educated them, you've empowered them. And who knows, they probably have someone in the picture, but they're not ready to marry yet. Not because they're dating or sleeping around with them, but they have a picture of somebody they want to marry and entangle with, as in long-term prospects. And then you come forcing them, putting pressure on them. They end up marrying because they don't want to. And then that's the reason why we've got many single mothers, single dads, abused children, all these mental health issues. To be honest, I think it's the parents, for lack of a better word, who are causing this to our children.
Thank you very much for those words of guidance. I've got some parting notes in the chat room from Sarah. She says, be the role model for the family, define your values and expectations, ensure your children buy into them, and forced marriages are illegal. We have all accepted that. Talk and listen with love, raise awareness, and don't stop talking, as we'll continue to talk every Tuesday with our host, KASSIM KAYIIRA, who is away at the moment, and I'm standing in for him. My name is Jaden. We are struggling with topics for discussion, and it would be interesting to get the views of those who are here. What would you like us to discuss next week? There's various channels where you can send in your suggestions so that we can discuss and make it lively. The topics are coming fast and thick, but we want things which are close to you, things which are interesting and lively and which we can learn from. But for today, the contributions have been honest. Thank you very much for those who have given live examples from their families. The lessons have been taken, and I hope we pass this message on to our children. We are Africans, we are Ugandans, we have got our cultures and the values, but let us not forget the secular laws, the Islamic laws, which keep us in the straight and narrow. And on that note, I wish to close the meeting and see you next Tuesday. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and thank you very much for your attendance.